everybody, and welcome to a brand new podcast, a spin-off a spin-off of there's a channel out there. It's getting a bit big. It just got picked up by Twitch, so it's getting there. Might have heard of it. Whānau produce magnificent content, and for a while they were doing a brilliant podcast called Whoscussion. But unfortunately, things got a bit not great there, so we've decided
That's
to
putting it mildly.
Yeah, putting it mildly. So we decided to trim the fat and stick with the good stuff. So here we are with BigFinish-Scussion. And that voice you just heard is the fabulous voice of Whānau himself. That random guy. Say hello, that random guy.
Hello there. I'm a little I don't know how to feel right now. I'm in a spin-off of my own show. I've become the Russell T Davies. I always feared this day.
If you're Russell T Davies, so how's that maple syrup treating you?
Oh, very mapley, very syrupy. So it's a bit sticky sometimes, but you get used to it.
For the regular fans of Whoscussion, that's going back a while, that joke.
I don't even know what started that, but I'm so happy that it began.
Absolutely. So this will be a monthly podcast, just because editing takes a while, and we're all busy people. We've got busy lives. I mean, that random guy over here's got a fantastic channel to run. So hey.
Well, thank you very much.
But yeah. So today we're going to be covering the 20th anniversary box set, The Legacy of Time, and so yeah, we'll just dive straight into it and away we go. So we're going to open with the first story, which is Lies and Ruins, which is an 8th Doctor story. And so we jump in, not in the best way, unfortunately, but we'll cover that when we get to our thoughts on that. But so we find River. She's on this and doing a bit of archaeology, and she breaks into a tomb. I think they call it a Milesian tomb.
Yeah, Milesian, yeah.
Yep, and she busts in, and Benny's already in there, and just kind of lording it over the fact she already got in there. Fair enough. I'd lord it over River too if I had the option.
If I was Bernie Summerfield, any chance I got.
Absolutely. So they're kind of backwards and forwards a little bit about the whole trying to work out what's going on here. Seem to be on this planetoid, which apparently just popped up out of nowhere, essentially. They got summons from the university, which Bernice studied, or taught at, which apparently River studied at, which...
Yeah, so River studied at Luna University and Let's Kill Hitler.
Ah, did she?
Yeah, right at the end when she realised that the Doctor's actually a hero and not a monster.
Right. I kind of put Let's Kill Hitler out of my head entirely.
So... Yeah, I wish I could. But Big Finish, they reference all of the Whoniverse, and there's some stuff I wish they didn't. As long as they never reference Fair Her. Oh no, they did reference the Carrionites. Never mind.
Yeah, unfortunately.
They already have.
But let's not get brought down by No Who. That's why we started the spin-off.
Exactly. I'm so sorry. I don't know what came over me.
But yeah, it's likely to happen from now and then, but as long as it doesn't happen too much. But anyway, so these summons to this planetoid is very easy, presumable. It's probably from the Doctor, and he rocks up. And they're not sure who to expect, but it's 8, and we have this very bouncy, bubbly, a little bit over happy in a way companion that he's picked up.
It's legitimately OTT.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of I think the professor taken aback, and we the audience are a bit taken aback by how OTT this companion is. So this is Rhea, and she's basically every sentence out of her mouth is praising the Doctor. So, oh, isn't he wonderful? He's a hero, stuff like that. And so they scavenge about a bit, scraping about the things, looking around. The Doctor's pretty worn at this point because, well, 8's been through quite a lot. Let's be real. He's really been through a lot.
Yeah, and at this point he's in the Time War.
Yeah, oh, Lord. Poor guy. But yeah, so he goes off doing some poking about, gets the professor to do poking about, and eventually Benny's picked up on some things that River pleads with her not to gloat to the Doctor about. But of course the Doctor, he's already figured it out, so I don't know why she's trying to stop her from saying it. But so this planetoid they're all on appears to be remnants of Gallifrey. Oh dear. Now we all know the Time War's going on, so the Doctor is pretty upset that it seems he's failed in his attempts to do good, and he's kind of starts going about. he needs to take a bit more of a
Active
poignant
role.
acting role, and kind of that. And meanwhile, digging about some tombs, seems that it appears rather, or hit, well, it doesn't appear because we can't see it, audio, but it sounds like they've stumbled across the remnants of the Matrix, and you've got some, well, what Rhea calls ghosts for simplicity's sake, and they seem a bit, anti everyone else except Rhea, and Rhea's bubbly, kind nature seems to be working on them. She can kind of command them to an extent, and they really don't seem to like the Doctor. Well, I suppose the Doctor's done a lot to piss off his fellow kinsmen, so
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, kind of understandable. But Rhea continues with her, the Doctor's brilliant! Oh my gosh, what a hero! He saves the day all the time. Yay, the Doctor spiel, and kind of basically transfers control of these ghosts over to him. Now, while all this is going on, we've got a scavenger ship sitting up above in the sky because they've also come across this planetoid and they're like, "Ooh, money! This has got all the juicy minerals. Let's get down there and scavenge some stuff." So they pull a bit of a dirty because, as they discuss, there's protocol and to allow indigenous life to kind of be notified and all that stuff. They give them all of 10 seconds, if that. They go, right, this is ours now.
I like how they're like, they've had long enough.
Yeah, that was actually great. I did enjoy that moment. But so the Doctor and the professors and Rhea kind of quite obviously find out about this, and the Doctor kind of gets up to a tower and try and pleads with them like, "Hey, we're actually down here. This is my world. Can you maybe not?" And the scavengers are like, they're not too fond of this because they want their money on all this juicy mineral-y stuff that's going on. And the Matrix, as we all know, is a super duper powerful computer, and as it's seeming to be broken and going all over the show, it's seeming to be able to construct or reconstruct the remnants of Gallifrey, which is like, oh, this is quite spectacular. And the Doctor's kind of quite chuffed about this. Oh, maybe I could rebuild Gallifrey. If I couldn't save it, we will avenge it. No, wait, wrong canon. But so this towers are built, the globe.
Actually,
buildings.
the Eighth Doctor was really prominent in Marvel Comics, so maybe not.
Oh, maybe. Yes, Doctors assemble. Copyright. So, but luckily, my channel's not that big, so I don't have to worry about demonetization yet. But yeah, so things are being rebuilt, and the Doctor's trying to show off to the scavengers and go, "Hey, we're clearly building all this beautiful stuff. There's life here. Come on, don't come and shoot us." But the scavengers, they're not too fond on this. They're just like, we'll just go about our scavenging things, which is essentially blowing everything up and sifting through what's left. So they start that, and that's really not all that good because there are people.
As you do.
Yeah, as you do. Why not? But Rhea gets quite, or seemingly not that badly hurt, but she falls off some stuff, gets crushed. The professors help her out, seeming to have a injured ankle. That would happen if you're crushed by some debris. Crushed ankle.
No, not just that though. How classic Who bullcrap is the ankle getting hurt? Like, it's my favorite, man. It's so classic Who bullcrap.
It actually is. It's like, we need to slow down a companion. Broken ankle for you.
Yeah, it's like Susan in the 20th anniversary, the original 20th anniversary. She's like, I'm like, you're a Time Lord. Why is your ankle sore?
Absolutely, but we don't. At this point, we don't know what species Rhea is. So she could just be a human. So fair play. But so she's kind of limping a bit, and it's at this point I think, hats off to Alexandra Riley. Just like before we found out what she actually is, I was just like, oh, is the whole OTT-ness just a facade? Because it seemed to falter a bit here, where she gets injured. Which is like,
Yeah.
oh damn. But anyway, so with the ghosts from the Matrix and the Doctor's help, he's like, okay, well, these scavengers aren't playing ball. Let's do some super duper Time Lordy defenses, which essentially is just a massive shield that deflects your attacks back at you. And I love the scavenger's resilience here. Well, rather the scavenger captain, his partner's just like, sir, we should probably stop. He's like, keep going, we've nearly worn through them. But unfortunately, that's not the case, and they're just essentially destroying themselves. But the professors manage to get their way up to the doctor and go, hey, this isn't you, come on, you're destroying them. But the doctor's kind of a bit taken over with his power, which is described as being almost godlike at this point. He's got what seemed to be the power of the Matrix at his disposable. His
Yeah, he's like
disposal.
straight up just like literally god tiering
So I
people.
am 7 now,
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah. I've decided to be a 7. Like, oh, we need you to be about a 5.
Yeah,
Is that shrinking acid 5 or?
that's possibly the best way of putting it. He's being a 7, and the professor's telling you need to be 5 right now. Come on.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Please.
And so they manage to snap him out of it and realize, okay, that's probably not the best idea. Let's be a doctor here. So he turns off the shield, and the scavengers take this as a point to go, okay, they've surrendered. Fantastic. Unfortunately, that's not quite the case, as well it might seem that way, and to us, the audience. But it's this
Mm.
point that they all realize, hang on a minute, the Matrix is a computer that stores information. Since when could it build stuff? Hold on a minute here. And so, I will admit, I loved this moment here, where it turns out this planetoid isn't actually the remnants of Gallifrey, it's the remnants of a dying TARDIS.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, a TARDIS can totally manifest things. And so once everyone
For me,
realized,
because it's dying, it reminds me of Moffat, where he did the story on Trenzalore, Name of the Doctor, where all the bigger on the inside's getting out,
yeah,
and I can totally see it becoming a planet.
absolutely, that was Joy's a big fan. It's just taking ideas that have been sown and just expanding on it and making it amazing. Anyway, so once they realize this, they kind of go, oh, okay. And the Doctor's a little bit. It's kind of a bit of both emotions. That yay, it's not the remnants of Gallifrey, but also I think he was quite happy with the kind of point he got the planetoid at, looking quite beautiful. It's like, oh, it's not okay. Back
Yeah,
to
you
the
got the
drawing board.
spires and everything, the
Yeah,
Prydonian
felt.
Academy.
Uh, poor 8. He never gets a break, does
Yeah,
he?
literally poor 8. This is why I wish there was like I love John Hurt to pieces, but man, I wish there wasn't a War Doctor.
I know. Just he just, if you listen to the Dark Eyes, they were totally gearing him up to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
But go back to the Whoscussion episodes for more on that idea. Um, so yeah, dying TARDIS, so they realize, okay, we can just kind of essentially hop, skip, and jump out of here and let the TARDIS die, and the scavengers will just have nothing to go and cipher, much to their disappointment. But at this point, Ria's been declining, which is weird, given she only seemed to have a broken ankle. And the doctor's like, I, Professor, I literally asked you to look after her. Why did you not do that? That's the one thing I mainly asked you to do.
Yeah,
And
and you couldn't even do that for me.
he needs.
When he says that to them, it's like, oh, that's cold, man.
That was cold. Because this Ria, she's actually an android that the
Mm,
doctor built, because he's really kind of down on his luck at the moment. He just wanted a friend that is just there to remind him he's doing a good job.
yeah,
And now he's lost that. And I'll tell you what, hearing that it was an android and just having come out of playing Detroit Become Human, oh,
yeah.
just
But another thing for me is like the Doctor is at a point in his life where he needs a companion like that, one
yeah,
that's like just like, 'cause, I mean, the companion is basically all the incorrect companion stereotypes that people have about classic Who companions,
mm,
all rolled into one, which I think was James Goss's idea here.
yeah,
And it's just rough because I don't know if you've listened to All Hands on Deck, the Eighth Doctor Time War short trip,
I haven't,
but
but
well, in that story, he goes to the post Dalek invasion of Earth,
oh wow,
and tries to stop Susan from getting the summons from the High Council
oh damn,
to fight in the war.
right, I know what I'm
So
listening
I
to
feel
after
like,
this.
yeah, I feel like this takes place almost probably directly after.
Right, wow. But yeah, so they leave the planetoid. I love that we don't actually find out what the scavengers did. They just must have been so gutted.
Yeah.
So, oh, that thing we were just shooting at has straight up disappeared. What happened? Were we high on something, guys?
Yeah. What have we done here? I don't know, but margaritas? Margaritas!
But yeah. So yeah, and 8 goes off. He's kind of realized, right, I need to take a bit more of a make a stand, an active role in this time war because I don't want my home to be a husk of a planetoid. I'm going to go try and do my best to stop that being a thing. And the professors go about whatever it is they do. And
What
unfortunately,
is it they do?
well,
We'll
River's off
never
being
know.
OP and having no one like her, and Benny's just off being Benny, having her own
Yeah.
adventures, making unbound canon, stuff like that.
Yeah. You
That's
know
what.
how it is. I'm gonna make Unbound canon. Nani?
That's actually what she said. Um, that is BigFinish-Scussion canon. We're having our own canon now.
Yeah, there it
Um,
is. We've got our own separate spin-off canon.
and then so Rhea's just almost post-credit scene. Rhea's left, kind of feeling cold as she's slowly being turned off, and the sirens show up. What? In credits theme.
Yeah. Credits theme. And that was real cool, man. Like having the sirens turn up. Because it's the 20th anniversary of Big Finish with Doctor Who.
Yep, and
And that was the first ever monster they fought.
absolutely. And that was Lies and Ruins. So that random guy, I'll get your thoughts on the story.
I don't like it. I know that's a bit like coming right out the gate. But it was hard for me to get into it because you start off straight away with River.
Mm.
And because I love supporting Big Finish, I've purchased all of River's run and listened to it all. And I think she works way better without the Doctor. If you listen to the stories where she doesn't have the Doctor with her, she's way more interesting. There's this season where she's running away from these like creatures that they're able to absorb the positive evolutionary traits of the beings they overtake, a bit like those school reunion monsters, but way more
Oh,
good
the
at their job.
Krillitanes.
Yeah. It's basically the Krillitanes, but actually like a
Good.
threat. And so when River goes up against them without the Doctor, it's great. But then they introduce Four, and Four's all being lovey-dovey with her. And it's
uh,
frustrating because that's not who Four is.
no.
So I think she works better without the Doctor. I feel like she bloated the script
Hmm.
a lot. And I think the story would have been tighter if it was just Bernice, Rhea, and the Doctor. But even I feel like I don't know. I feel like the dialogue they gave 8 wasn't really that strong either, to be honest.
Mm.
And
Could have
maybe,
almost just been a Doctor and Rhea story.
yeah, exactly. I think it might have even been better if it was a Doctor and Rhea story where it's just the Doctor and Rhea playing off each other while the Doctor's trying to figure things out, and then at the end when she dies, it's just the Doctor, you know, lamenting the fact that he created the perfect companion, and even that wasn't good enough in a
Oh,
time war.
can we go to a parallel universe where that was the story?
Yeah, I know, and it sucks because I love Bernice Summerfield.
Mm.
And Lisa Barrowman, not only is she a lead in her own franchise, because she does have her own franchise at this point,
Yeah.
um, but she's also a creative lead in terms of a production point of view because she's both a director and a producer at Big Finish. She's produced and directed most of the short trips, if not all of them.
That is actually
Um,
amazing.
yeah, so she's a very, very, very talented person, and I love her work. But I feel like it would have been stronger without the two professors, and if there were to be, if James Goss felt there was a need for the authors as for the archaeologists, as he clearly has in this. I still feel like it would have been stronger without River. And
Yeah.
Before somebody hits me in the comments about, oh, you just don't like Alex Kensington, I absolutely disagree with that. I think she is a very talented actress, but I feel like the River as a character just works better without the Doctor.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Again, if you listen to her run without the Doctor, she's great. She did this her first season. I think it was her first. Yeah, her first season. She has this whole adventure where she's taking on these people called the Rulers of the Universe, and her interaction there without the Doctor is great. And then Paul there worked better in that story as well. I think Paul worked better, way better there. So
Right.
I don't know. I just felt like this story feels like maybe don't open with this
Yeah.
because if it made me not want to listen to it took me about a fortnight to come back to this box set after listening to the story,
Oh,
because I was just like, oh man, I didn't enjoy that at all, and it sucks because I love Big Finish to pieces. You know,
absolutely.
as anybody who knows from our Whoscussion series, and if you're fans of the Facebook page, you'll know I love Big Finish.
Hmm. No
But
doubt.
this, I feel like this was a very weak start.
Yes.
Um, and I don't know, I didn't I wish that instead of those junk people, it was just the Daleks.
Oh, yeah, tying into the
Yeah,
Time War, they'd come off to make sure that Gallifrey is properly,
yeah,
or somehow.
like like when the good guys figure out it's Gallifrey, the Daleks figure out it's Gallifrey.
Mm,
At the
that
same
could have
time,
been.
there's that sort of that narrative. What's it called? What's it called? What's it when the good side and the bad guys figure the same thing out in the same scene?
Oh, I can't remember the word
I
for
can't
it.
remember what the hell's that called. But
Comment section, please.
yeah, please. It's a narrative and film thing. I can't remember what it's called, but I would have preferred that because I just felt that the junk people they weren't very strong
No.
as characters. I didn't like the special effect used to make their voices. I know that it was a throwback to early Big Finish, because a lot of early Big Finish they used that voice augmenter. So for a 20th anniversary, I understand why they used that technology, because it's a throwback to their original run.
Mm,
But I just felt, I don't know, it took me right out of the story. I just think this is really really weak.
yeah, I, that's all fair comments. I mean, for the most part, I agree. There were definitely standout moments. For the most part, I enjoyed the third act, but
Yeah,
largely because that was mainly just the Doctor, and then when we're kind of getting down to the actual kind of the crux of things, the build-up was very slow and hard to, digest for me.
yeah.
Uh,
It took me, I think, 3 goes to get through the story.
yeah, um, I did enjoy the twist that it was actually a dying TARDIS. I really appreciated that. And actually, with Rhea,
Mhm.
when she first came into the story, I don't want to be mean, but I was immediately put off her with her because she
Yeah.
was that over the top.
I think you were supposed to, though. I think that was James Goss's idea with the character, was to be
Right.
put off from her.
But then once it's revealed who she actually is, it was really sad for the Doctor.
Yeah,
And
and it
I
made sense why she was like that as well, because he was just
absolutely.
trying to be happy.
And it's also kind of telling that because obviously the dying TARDIS, its whole telepathic circuits were recreating what the Doctor wanted. Kind of very telling that he recreated a beautiful Gallifrey.
Yeah, the
Just,
Gallifrey of his childhood.
mm. But yeah, so not off to the best start but it gets better. It gets better by a long
Oh, it
shot.
certainly gets better.
And speaking
Absolutely.
of getting better, so the next story, the split infinitive. That random guy, take us away.
Okay, so the split infinitive starts off doing my favorite thing ever: British gangsters. I love British gangsters, as LateCrow knows. It's
Yep.
one of my favorite my default voice when it comes to being a crook is British gangster. I love, the classic Guy
Yep.
Ritchie, or even earlier than that, the Michael Caine sort of gangster films.
Yep.
That accent. It's very generic. I wonder if people actually use it in real life. I've been to the UK myself, and I can't say I ever recall somebody actually using it in person. But I love it. I love everything about that accent, the inflection, the way it's used. If it is a real accent, I feel sorry for the people who do speak it, because clearly, well, because
Yeah.
media's made it come off as the bad guy accent, right?
Yeah, true.
Which, I
Absolutely.
mean, if it is a real spoken accent, it is sad. But at the same token, I love how cool it makes you sound like a badass.
It
You sound
does.
like a badass if you have that accent. Anywho's, it starts off with these criminals being all criminally, and then my favorite is, you can't use a gun on a plane. I know, and then he still uses a gun on the plane and kills that guy. I was like, that's perfect. Like, oh, and I just finished playing a VR game that is very much based on Guy Ritchie gangster films. And you at the end, you have a choice of shooting somebody in a plane. If you do, the plane blows up. I immediately did that, by the way. But so I was like, as soon as that started, I was like, awesome, I'm in. And this is the hook I wanted last episode. I want a hook. Hook
Mm.
me, please.
And
So I'm
yeah.
hooked straight away. And then we have the countermeasures team. Now, if you guys aren't, if you're coming fresh to BigFinish-Scussion and you're not probably familiar with BigFinish's run, countermeasures are a group of audio characters that actually originated in the TV series
Mm.
in the story Remembrance of the Daleks. And they were the precursors to Unit. I don't think the two aren't the same government arm, but thanks to Remembrance, they become a branch of the government that deals with extraterrestrial threats. But they deal with other stuff like time warps and stuff like that. So they're a bit more. I suppose they're like if Torchwood and Unit were one thing in a way,
Right. Yeah.
but it wasn't half badly written. Like shots fired. Anyway, so they're having a meeting, but they're having two meetings about the same thing in different time periods.
Mm.
Ace is in the 1960s. She turns up and they're like, Dorothy McShane, what are you doing here? And then Seven turns up and he's like, hey, I'm Seven. And Seven and Ace are having similar conversations, if not the same, in two different decades with the same group of people, but the conversation's actually happening at the same time.
I love it.
And like it sounds like it's complicated to get your head around, but because of the strong writing from John Dorney, it works. It totally works. It
It
feels
does.
natural, and you even though the actors are exactly the same and they don't really change how they speak, you can tell which team you're with because of the events that's happening for them.
Mm.
So at first the meeting, so it starts off with them with meetings, are very similar dialogue, but they go different ways. And the doctor has to ask the countermeasures team what Ace is doing right now. And so they're basically, I suppose, in a way, they're suffering from ping, if that makes sense. And so the doctor's like, "What did Ace do at this moment?" They're like, "Oh, this happened." And so they're trying to catch these criminals. Now, the interesting thing about these criminals is they have a creature that is a time space anomaly, and it's able to steal people's time line. Essentially, it touches you, and unlike the Weeping Angels where it eats your timeline that you would have had and puts you somewhere else, this one eats your timeline and you're either dead or super old.
Yep.
So they are doing bank heists, they're doing a whole bunch of stuff, and basically it's 60s/70s era British crime films for
Yep.
this whole story. At the end, there's a big punch up on both sides of the timeline,
Of
and
course there is.
one person dies, and one of the villains dies in the 60s, and the doctor and the leader of countermeasures is fighting this guy, and then he just dies. They're like, what the hell happened? And the doctor's like, he probably died in the 60s. And the dude's like, I'm so confused. If he died in the 60s, why are we fighting him in the 70s? And the doctor's like, I told you, both of these decades are happening at the same time. And it's also used to explain why Unit has a problematic dating system in Classic Who that was created by Mordred Undead. So a Big Finish, you are such show-offs, all right? You're showing off too much. Anyway, Ace fights the criminals. They find these criminals are time space criminals called the Rocket Men,
Yeah.
and they're from another Doctor Who Big Finish range. So there's like four
Yep.
Big Finish ranges in this one story. It's fantastic.
Yep.
Ace is very much, Ace was always a strong female lead, I
Mm.
feel, from the moment she was introduced, and she said that she had a science experiment that sent her through time, which the doctor was like, that doesn't make sense. You're coming with me on the TARDIS now. And then they fought a literal Satan. So, because Fenric actually cursed Ace to bring the doctor there. But Ace just comes off as even stronger in this story, and I love it. This story could have been an 8th of March story, to be honest, with the focus on Ace being very capable.
Mm.
So the whole reason that the timeline split is happening, where 2 decades are happening at the same time, is because there is this time space pilot. What was his name again? What was the name of
Punchin.
time space? Punchin.
Yeah.
So the time space pilot Punchin, and he landed in 1967 and 1975. Oh, sorry, 1965 and 1975. So he
Yeah.
landed in the same space location, but in two different times. And as a result, he needs to get this Mordrin Undead to put himself back together. That is too far, Big Finish. All right, you don't fix the space the time space conundrum from Mordrin Undead by finishing it by using Mordrin Undead's ending. That's too far. I'm sorry, I have to make a stand here, Big Finish. And then the doctor's like, all right, well, catch you guys later. And the countermeasures team are like, you know what? I hate when they turn up, but I also love when they turn up. And that's the split infinitive.
That's absolutely. All right, so I'll give my thoughts, then we'll
Yeah.
come back round for you. I, honestly, I almost wish this box had started with this story.
Yeah, 100%. This is such a good story.
And not only that, I mean, we'll get to it later, but it also sets up elements that carry through the whole box set as well. So this is the whole kind of with different timelines happening concurrently, and the whole time anomalies. It really could start it here. It really is. Yeah. Please. Anyway.
Yeah, I really wish it had started here.
And Seven's, and I'm always tossing up which Doctor's my favourite between 7 and 8, but 7, I got love for 7. Ace is my favourite companion, so I'm already on board. I love as you said, I love the gangster voice because it's just so badass.
Yeah. And it's so me, right? Like, I was like, oh, did I voice this? Like.
And shameless plug, if you go to my videos and find Sidestep 2, you can hear that random guy using that voice. Haha. So yeah, go and check that out, please. Yep, I also love, like you say, Big Finish is just showing off with how many Rangers they're pulling into the story.
Yeah, man. And like
But
the
also
amount of continuity they're referencing, this is kind of like mind-bending.
It's just, but it also works so amazingly. It's just how. This is, if the last one was the Big Finish, you know what, firing blanks, this was just all over the place. So good.
Yeah. So strong.
It was. Yeah, I don't want to say too much more because I've got thoughts that kind of tie into the final story, so I'll save it for that. But I just love the story immeasurably and wish it was the opener for this box set. But that random guy, your thoughts?
My thoughts are just get rid of Lies and Ruins, and then make the split infinitive the first story, and then Lies and Ruins just doesn't happen.
Yep, I mean,
and then 8th story could be Collision Course, but no.
I mean,
no, that's
actually, why you say it? What does I know it's a weak side, but what does Lies and Ruins really bring to the table for the whole box set, really?
Oh, nothing. If I'm being honest, apart from the reference to the sirens,
which is like at the very end.
Yeah,
which isn't really, as a teaser, is not necessarily beneficial to the whole box set. So
yeah, yeah. The split infinitive it's just so strong. It's just I feel the opening's amazing. It's really draws you in. You know, it's that classic British gangster feel to it, but at the same token, it also has a very Doctor Who feel to it. Yes. So it's great because you know, classic Who never had cold opens, so it's pretty interesting that this opened with a cold open, which is very new Who, and it stuck the landing. You know,
yes.
It didn't end with the whole diddle-din. You know. So it brought me straight in. I love the 60s spy noir soundtrack.
Yes.
It was fantastic. There's so much 60s spy music in this. It's almost like you're in a who's who of Bond soundtracks.
Yes.
The actors love playing these characters. You can so tell. They are very clearly way older than they were in Remembrance from the voices, but you don't care, you know. It's my wife actually last night was listening to Relative Dimensions because she wanted to, because for those of you who don't know, my wife's when it comes to the EU, it's not really her thing, and you know, Doctor Who is definitely more my passion. She just sort of watches it because she's married to me. But last night she sat down and she listened to Relative Dimensions. She's like, even though you can tell Peter Davison sounds old, it doesn't matter because like you feel the character. And I feel the same with this. Is like I loved it, and I love the Britishness, if that's even a word. It's just so British.
Yeah.
This story is the most British that's ever been British, and it's just so great. My favorite is when that guy goes, "Get up, soldier boy." He goes, "Soldier, I'm RAF." And then beats the crap out of that guy. Royal Air Force, I'll have you know. And it's just like the guy's so taken aback because he doesn't understand just how British he is. Oh, I love it.
It's so good.
Yeah, and it's great because like the villains are meant to be like sci-fi villains, but they sound like 1960s spy bad guys.
Yeah. And even
It's
when
like, what?
and just even when they get you find out who they are, the Rocket Man, and they're blasting around the plane with jetpacks. It's like they've got jetpacks, but they still sound like 60s crime.
I'm just imagining them with the crusty Sean Connery jetpack from I think it's Thunderball. Am I wrong?
I can't say I've seen many Bond films, so I'm not too sure.
Bro, have you not watched Bond?
I have watched a couple of the ones with what's his name, Daniel Craig, and that's
No, not Daniel Craig. What are you doing?
I'm sorry.
No. But
I haven't seen the most recent one, if that's any consolation.
Oh wow, Spectre, don't.
Like,
So yeah, so I think this is a very very strong story and should have been the opener. I listened to this in one sitting.
yes,
I was like, this is amazing.
absolutely. I think I listened to every other story except Lies and Ruins in one sitting.
Yeah, Lies and Ruins is so hard to get through. It's awful. Don't open your box set with the weakest episode. Don't do
No,
that.
unfortunately.
Put that in the middle somewhere where people are like bound to sort of be ready for
A break.
a slower one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just open with Split and Furtive. Just like put it as number 3 or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well, I think we've pretty much said all we can say about the Split and
Yeah.
Infinitive.
All right. So time to move on to the third story of this box set, The Sacrifice of Joe Grant. All right. So this is a Third Doctor story, but we open with Joe and Osgood hanging out. And this story just kind of really Big Finish showing off a bit here. Just kind of going, let's make it feel like a unit story.
Yeah.
So Osgood and Joe are hanging out, and Kate comes along and it's like, hey, we got an issue. We've got some time-space holes on the coast. We need to go check them out. So they go to check them out, and I'm just imagining just these just big black thunderclouds off the cliffs of Dover with just black holes in the sky.
There's like rips in time in them.
Yeah. But just, yeah, that's what I'm picturing. Props to Big Finish for actually just being audio, but just putting images in your head that vividly. It's great. But yeah, so not only have we got big holes in space-time, we've got things coming through, which is not good. So we seem to have a link between just broken time. We've got a link between 1972 and the 2010s. And unfortunately, we have it on high authority, or rather very good authority, I should say, that Kate says that an eyewitness says that Joe Grant dies in this. And Joe's like, but she says, yeah, he died in 1972. Joe's like, but hang on, I'm alive now.
I'm literally right here.
And just like maybe your eyewitness got it wrong. And it's just like, unfortunately, our eyewitness was name drop countermeasures person right now.
Yeah.
Just like tying back. And I think this is why I think Split Infinitive should have been the first one. It just carries on with the whole concurrent.
Yeah, Split Infinitive actually sets up the box set.
It does.
If I'm being honest.
Yeah. So yeah, that's going on. And these time holes, they're trying to get everyone back, but unfortunately things go awry, and both Kate and Joe are sucked through one of them and land in the same place, but in 1972. And guess who they bump into? The Third Doctor, because of course they do. And
hello there, Joe.
I love that Joe and Doctor have a bit of back and forth, because obviously from Joe's standpoint, she hadn't seen him in, was it 40 years, she says?
Yeah, and also from Joe's standpoint, he's dead.
Mm. So, but third doctor's three's just like, oh, hello, Joe. Yeah, so let's get cracking on. And he's got a doohickey that he's whipped up, and he says, yep, this doohickey, if no one touches it, it will fix the problem in about 5 hours or so. Like, can't you make it quicker? He just very kind of not very subtly dodges the question. He's like, oh, well, yeah, it's very risky, so we'll just go with the safe option. And Joe's like, okay, so there's a risky option. I shall remember this. And
Put that in my brain bank. And
yeah,
done.
absolutely. Meanwhile, Osgood does some sciencey stuff and patches through some calculations through the there's some sciencey stuff that's said, and so she basically manages to briefly communicate with Kate, just make sure that they're all good. And there's like, yep, the doctor's sorting this, just stand back and we should be hunky-dory. Like, cool, alright. That seems a bit too easy. It's because it is, my dear chaps. So, 1972, the doctor's like, right, well, we can't do much here, so we're going to just go and have some lunch. And
Yeah, he's just like, let's go to the pub. She's like, run that by me again?
yeah, and Kate's just like, I might just stand here, and she has a moment where she's like, wait a minute, my father's alive in this time period.
He
and
sure is.
and Joe's immediately like, you should totally call him. Kate's not too fond of that idea, but so she sits on
She's
that
like, what about the time-space continuum?
just and she's like, well, you can, just say hello, something, you don't have to say who you are, yada yada. But Kate decides, right, no, it's much safer way to stay here, make sure nothing goes awry here. You guys have lunch. So Doctor and Joe go have a chin wag at the pub, catch up on old times, and so that goes all very well and good. Meanwhile, Kate's sitting just kind of and she says she's gonna mind the device, but I think she's more mulling over whether or not to bother, or not bother, but whether she can physically bring herself to call her father. When the radio goes off, and it seems to be Osgood saying, "Hey, we got issues here. Can you do some things to your device there, and that should fix it?" And Kate's like, "Well, it's my scientific advisor. Unlike Nuhu, I trust my scientific advisor. Actually, no, unlike Nuhu, I have a scientific advisor, and I'm going to listen to them." So she does the thing, and it immediately goes bad. How bad, you might ask? Back in the 2010s, this is so they notice this giant waveform, not a werewolf this time.
I so knew where you were going with that. I can hear Harry Skelly tuning in his beard right now. How dare you!
He's lucky that I can't remember the full name of it, so I don't have to. But no, a waveform hits the coast, and well, what did that do? And Oscar's like, well, I think it's time energy. It's drawing to things that are old. Well, what's in the rock and coast that's old? A dinosaur.
A dinosaur.
How more Pertwee era who can you get?
Oh my goodness, right? Yeah. Pertwee and ancient reptiles. The sea devils. The Silurians. The dinosaurs.
It's like, we need to make this film more Pertwee era. Put a dinosaur there. Done.
We need an ancient reptile. I've got just the one.
So that's up there causing some trouble. I think it straight up eats a person. And Osgood's like, okay, let's just all move back. And the unit soldier like, we should probably shoot it. And Osgood's like, but it's not. It's just doing what carnivals do.
But it's a dinosaur.
And while they're arguing over what to do, it just straight up dies and turns to bones and then dust. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Do you know what's my favorite about that person that speaks to Osgood? You know who their voice actor is, eh?
It straight up sounds like it was Scottish. So when I first heard it, I thought it was David Tennant, but oh no, it's who else does Scottish? Nicholas Briggs? No.
Yeah, it's Nick Briggs. It's when I heard that I was like, Nick.
He had to put himself in there. Just
yeah. Well, I mean, it's the 20th anniversary. Why not? But I was like, Nick, you naughty young man.
It's like me putting myself into cameos into my own films. Like, yeah, I'm just putting myself in there. Why not? Peter Jackson cameo that. But,
yeah, eats carrot.
I need to straight up do that just for no reason. Just have a carrot and eat.
Have a carrot.
That's going to happen, guys. Watch my incoming videos for me eating a carrot at some point. Um, yeah, so they're like, okay, so well, that was weird, but we should probably kind of look after all the injured people. Let's get on with that. Back to 72, and Kate bursts into the pub and goes, "So you know how you asked me not to touch anything? Yes, I 100% did the opposite of what you said."
And three's just like, why? I implicitly told you not to. She's like, but it was my scientific advisor. He's like, I don't give a shiz if it's your scientific advisor.
I love how at the start when Osgood does the Reddit thing, he's like, "Oh yeah, I quite like a scientific advisor." But when Kate says, "My scientific advisor said to me to thing," he's immediately like, "I don't like your advisor anymore." Uh, but so they run back and start to Dr. Measures to try and stabilize it from getting any worse. But it's looking chance of fixing it the way they'd planned. It's pretty doubtful. Meanwhile, in 2010, the waveform's at it again, and they're like, it's racing through the village. They're like, what's old here? A church graveyard. Why not? So just
why not?
reanimate some people. And a line here really kind of put me a bit in the dumps a little bit, just kind of emotionally, because they're like, well, obviously it's going to amplify the older people more strongly. Strongly is not a word, but you get the idea. So what about those people who are recently dead? Well,
strongly is a word.
Is it? I don't think I
Yeah,
used it in the
you
right.
can feel strongly about something.
Okay, I don't think I used it correctly. It didn't feel right.
Stronger was that what you were going for?
Yes, that's the.
Yeah, strongly means with great power, or in a way to be able to withstand force or wear.
Right. Okay. Hey, I have a university degree. Why am I having to be taught these things? But no.
Happens to the best of us.
Yes. Brain farts. This is why I did theatre and not anything else.
At least you're not a Gelf.
Oh, at least I don't write the bad episodes of New Who.
Please never.
Yes.
Please don't.
I will actually jump off the cliffs and into a time hole myself if I do that. I'm coming, Pertwee, teach me good Who.
Of course, young man.
So yeah, just the idea that you got some partially reanimated people unable to get out of their graves is just horrifying to me.
Yeah, that's pretty not
pretty
okay.
Brutal. But so they've got some people that the ones that are out and about and a bit confused, they look after them. And it's at this point that in 72 that Joe's like, well, okay, so we've said that people can go into the thing. Right. What if I take this device that the doctor's dealing on, just walk straight into the hole? That must be the risky thing he was talking about earlier. And the doctor's like, well, yes, it was, but I should be the one to do it. And Joe's just emphatically like, well, I know for an actual 100 million% fact that you don't die here, so that's not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, if 3 dies, it's not a good thing. That is genuinely not an okay thing to happen to the timeline.
Not at all. And Kate's like, well, it's my fault. I should do it. And Joe's like, no. Your eyewitness said it was going to be me. I'm going to do it. And she does it. And yeah, it was kind of, it was hefty. So she jumps into the thing and basically jumps straight into the time vortex, essentially.
Yeah.
And so, everyone presumes, yeah, that's her sacrifice. That's her gone. Oh, what a way. And so the doctor's like, right, Kate, you've got 20 seconds to get through while it's stabilized and get back to your own time. Oh, before she does, though, before all this, probably should talk about the most emotional moment of the whole story. So Kate plucks up the courage to call her father. Was it? No, it is father. Yes, not grandfather.
Yeah.
And the brigadier, and just the props to the amazing talent of John Coleshaw. Sounds just like the brig.
Yeah, he sounds so. It's crazy, man. I thought it was they had used archival clips of Nicholas Courtney because it's so close.
And of course, obviously, Kate was kind of a bit shy about using her name around the Doctor, but the Doctor, he figures out, he knows who she is. But I think when the Brigadier says that unit's in safe hands, I'm like, oh, it's so beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Big Finish. I needed that cry. Thank you. But So Kate gets back to his own time, and Pertwee goes back to fixing up Bessie. I think he says he's going to do, as you do, because Bessie. Um, yeah, but then we cut back to, well, not back to, but cut to Jo. She's swirling about the time vortex, and she's accepting her fate. She's lived a good life. But then, just as she's about to accept her fate, showink, she's plucked out into back to 2010. So, oh, how did that happen? And just like, well, the doctor had a bajillion years to fix up something to pluck you out. Pass on to Osgood, and there you go. You are plucked out and safe. Fantastic. Yeah. So, and all seems hunky dory. Happy days. They still don't know what caused the whole holes in time. So that's a bit of a concern. But that concern is for another story.
It
Yeah.
sure is.
That random guy, your thoughts on the sacrifice of Joe Grant?
I think it's very strong. I like how it's a sequel to Unit Assembled, which is a great box set, by the way, people. If you haven't heard it, definitely listen to Unit Assembled, where Joe, Mike Yates, and Sergeant John Benton join up with the new unit. And Sergeant Benton's like, oh man, you guys have way too much tech. This isn't really my field anymore. It's a great box set. I love that Joe and Osgood became friends at the other side of that. The fact that Joe's helping Osgood sort of open up and become more, I suppose, more sociable.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
liked that the beings or the force or whatever it was that created this whole time storm thing used Osgood's voice to make Kate make bad decisions, and then Kate felt guilty about it. But the doctor's like, to be fair, they on purpose sounded like your friend, so I totally get where you're coming from.
Yep.
I must say though, I understand that Osgood and them are on the New Who side of things.
Yep.
But I was kind of hoping it didn't have like a New Who ending. I think it would have worked better if it was Joe's end. To be honest, I don't know if they're contractually allowed to do that.
Yeah,
but
that might have been the case where they literally weren't allowed to kill her. Maybe.
yeah, but I think it would have been a stronger story for it.
Yeah.
To be honest,
just not that it was a bad ending, but it just kind of was.
It felt New Who. It
Yeah.
felt so New Who. New Who is all about that. Like, we can save everybody in the end. It's like, but no, you have to be able to fail. You genuinely have to be able to fail. And when the Doctor fails, that hurts us the most as audience members, because he's meant to be the hero, right? Or she, or them, they are supposed to be the hero. So, yeah, I really do wish that that was the end. But again, it was probably contractually not available. Because I know Guy Adams, and if he was allowed to kill a character, he would. He certainly would.
And you're dead. And you're dead.
You're dead. If anybody has followed me on social media will know, I think Tim does a decent enough job of the Third Doctor, but I feel like he doesn't sound like Pertwee, for me at least.
Yeah,
it's for me. It took me a while because I was listening to this on my phone. It took me a while to realize that the person who was speaking was the Third Doctor. That's who it was supposed to be. And it's interesting for me because they've got John Coleshaw playing Nicholas Courtney, but John Coleshaw also does an impeccable John Pertwee. He sounds identical to Pertwee. He did a fan video on YouTube, which was the scene from the end of Day of the Doctor, and he played Pertwee, and he sounded identical. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I wish he was 3. I mean, I definitely wouldn't want like Tim to get dropped, because I think that'd be unfair since he's been the Doctor for so long. But yeah, that because as people know, Pertwee's my favorite Doctor, hands down. I love the Third Doctor to pieces. and I think I would have resonated probably a bit more with the story if they sounded like John. But in saying that, it's not a weak story at all.
No.
I thought it was a bit random that they went to a pub. That sort of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
When they went to the pub, but also Joe making the Doctor a vegetarian was interesting.
That was an interesting narrative
I
choice.
get where she's coming from, though.
Oh yeah,
Right? As he's,
I definitely get. It just kind of felt a bit funny in the story, I guess.
it felt sort of shoehorned in, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, they're trying to put on like modern world morals, and it makes sense because Joe's from our point of view a modern world version of Joe.
Mm.
But I felt like I don't know.
It did feel very shoehorned in.
Yeah, it
You're
felt
right.
shoehorned in. I didn't like that at all. I didn't like that whole pub scene, if I'm being honest. When they're like, oh, I'm gonna go to lunch, I was like, wait, what? They were at lunch, and I was like, oh. And it's funny because it's hypocritical of me because I love when the Doctor's being like doing normal everyday human stuff. I love that. Like when the Doctor drives a car, and I'm just like, okay, what? Like, or like in the 10th Doctor era where him, Jack, and Martha sit down to fish and chips.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, that whole being a vegetarian thing mustn't have lasted long.
Yeah.
Though Six is a vegetarian, if I remember correctly. Of the Doctors, Six is a vegetarian. But I don't know. I felt like that was sort of out of left field, but the story's good. Definitely, and I like that this also does more setting up than bloody Lies and Ruins did. That Nicholas Courtney sounds alike part, man, so good. John Coleshaw, hats off.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's my thoughts on the sacrifice of Joe Grant.
Yeah. I agree with everything you've said. It's definitely a strong, strong story. A couple of weak points, as you say, the pub scene and the ending. Just kind of not that it's, as you're saying, it's not a bad ending. It's just because it feels very New Who, and the rest of the story doesn't. Just doesn't quite gel.
Yeah.
So
But again, in saying that though, it is the
yeah,
New Who unit team.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, even the scenes mid-story in the beginning where it was just the New Who team, it didn't feel very New Who.
Yeah. Yeah. Didn't feel like New Who's rubbish.
I mean, even in I haven't listened to a huge amount of the new unit stuff, but they still manage to have endings that have weight and don't feel too New Who.
Oh, absolutely. There's a story where Osgood helps his mother commit suicide.
What?
It's amazing. It's
Which box set is this in,
so
or which season rather?
can't remember. I think it's in the last season they've released so far.
Right.
Um and yeah, Osgood helps his mother kill herself to save her child. And it's so rough. It's so rough. And I just remember crying my eyes out actually.
Right. If I
And
need
then
to cry, then that's where I'm
yeah,
going.
and it was interesting because Kate was just like, why would you do that? And Osgood was like, you left me no choice. And it's this huge butting of heads between Osgood, Kate, and this mother. And it's just, oh, so good. Just
Mm.
so powerful.
Big Finish. And you
Yeah.
can only take so much.
Yeah, exactly. Because I don't like crying all the time when I listen to you. So if you could just calm down on that.
Yeah, that'd be great. But yeah, I don't really have much more to add. Just I enjoyed it on the whole, and yeah, just look, definitely did a lot of setting up and made me look forward to the rest of the box set. Right. So, in true old Whoscussion old Whoscussion style, we're gonna have a quick break here, and we'll catch you in part 2 of this episode of Big Finish Scussion.